The action-packed art of Street Fighter, a fighting game with over 100 characters designed by 7 main artists and a dozen of support illustrators. This series has racked up lots of installments over the years and has established itself as the main tournament fighting game. Today we're going to look at the concept art, character and illustration works from Street Fighter 2 and 3. Street Fighter 2 was the most influential fighting game ever made, setting a new bar for its genre and produced many alternate sequels ever since. The main story is about the journey of the wandering warrior known as Ryu. He seeks true mastery of his martial art and therefore is absent from any recurrent form of social interaction, except for his friend Ken Masters. He's a childhood friend and trained under the same martial arts teacher. Without a doubt, he never runs from a fight against a strong opponent to test his skill and moveset that he honed during training. Therefore, Ryu enters the tournament that is held by Bison, the leader of the criminal organization Shadoloo, and has the ability to control psychic power. Ultimately, these two have to face each other in a devastating battle of skill. Luckily for us, there's a lot of art of Street Fighter 2, as the game series contains at least 8 installments. Therefore, to appreciate how the series has evolved over the years, we will first look at the old school works before we go into the later installments and promotional art. Also do know with such a character roster, certain characters are created by different artists, but are redrawn by others. So in this case I'll describe the general style of that time instead of designs. The original Street Fighter 1 works had this old manga style with a color scheme reminiscent of pulp art from the 70s, which mainly used a dark toned palette with high contrast. When we look at Street Fighter 2 however, they used brighter colors with a seemingly pastel look. Furthermore, the line art consists of clean lines with a lot of curves. Besides that, the background is lighter than the character. Plus, they added this light ambience around them to make them stand out even further. Composition wise, the character profile pictures were placed in the center and had a pretty far top-down perspective. This combination, however, is an angle you will seldom see as the series progresses, as this actually makes the character seem weaker. Except for Sagat. I mean, come on, look at Dan. These are some of the concept art from the artist Kinu Nishimura. I think the sketch style and character model presentation really fit the Street Fighter series. Even uncolored, you can see the professionalism and the energy they emit, ready to fight and kick ass. Here are works from Street Fighter 2 The New Challengers. These character portraits remind me more of the light-toned Alpha series. Nonetheless, it was clear they wanted to give the characters a new fresh look, and this way more in line with the 90s manga style. As an added effect, they mainly went for pure black shadows to pop them off the screen. They went on with this lighter toned trend in Super Street Fighter and 2 turbo versions of the game. Although I think they were heavily influenced by the Alpha series, they still want to show a distinct difference to keep uniqueness. For the well-received Street Fighter 2 movie, the posters had this mature anime style that was well suited for its time, even though the characters seem a bit older, due to their eye level a bit above the center and strong jaws. I think the majority can still appreciate these classics. In contrary, just for fun, when we glance at the chibi styles in the series, there are 2 distinct ones. Puzzle Fighter uses many roundish character models, while Pocket Fighter uses a bit more square designs. While the color palette is similar, the main difference is the use of details in the highlights, with Pocket Fighter using large areas to indicate depth. Although I grew up with Puzzle Fighter, I think they are both fine in their own right, with no personal preference on my side whatsoever. Besides the game art style changing over the years, there are some main design choices which basically all the installments have. The exaggeration of hands and feet. Needless to say, these are the main weapons of the martial artists, and because in fighting games you need to tell in milliseconds what's going on, they are given extra attention. That said, the male cast always look like powerhouses, with a massive upper body and strong legs, while the female characters have an elegant, flexible but strong leg design. This way, all the fighters seem to be a force to be reckoned with, as should.
Welcome to the world of Street Fighter 3. Prepare for battle.
Street Fighter 3 is seen by some as the pinnacle of the series, with its smooth 2D character animation and in-depth technical game design. The story takes place in a time where Bison seemed to have been defeated, and a new antagonist known as Gil tries to turn the world into a utopia. He is the leader of the secret organization known as the Illuminati, and holds the Third World Warrior contest to see which fighter he will allow into his new vision. Naturally, Ryu's search for ultimate mastery presses on, and he will participate in the battle to test his strength at worthy opponents. He will have to fight his best friend Ken. These two guys are like brothers, and most of the time do a fist bump before the match. However, Ryu holds the record of having the most wins. Furthermore, a new rivalry manifests as well, against the American grappler, Alex. His purpose is to take Gil down. Just like all games in the series, the art of Street Fighter 3 is depending on the version, the artist and the subject. To clarify, A character select portrait can be quite different than a full-blown illustration. Do note though that the game pixel art is of course different than the original designs. Nevertheless, there are 4 dominant styles which I want to address. First, the character select portrait arts from new generation. They use bright colors and a thick black outline to keep them distinct. Now let's check out the character's victory and defeat poses. They contain rough line art combined with a light toned palette, reminding me of color pen. I personally really like this type of sketchy style, as if the line art is drawn with a freehand, no regrets, concept art mindset. Moreover, this creates a lot of energy. The color scheme is nice as well, it pops off the image, but I can understand this is more of a love it or hate it type of design choice, because it kind of takes a lot of concentration to dissect what's going on. Let me show you in comparison with Third Strike's art. In this case it's clear that the line art is more clean and the colors have changed into a more gradient tone, with darker pastel-like color scheme. This brings a lot more serenity in the art. One could debate if character portrait art style versus in action should be different, or all drawn in the same style. Calmness before the storm, so to say. In case of Street Fighter development art, they do make a distinction in this. If it's deliberate, I don't know, due to their huge character roster and big artist pool. That said, when I check the Street Fighter art book, it is clear that the artists have quite some freedom for their own interpretation of the characters, which I think is excellent. The last one I want to address is the Street Fighter Third Strike Online edition. This game's art went even further into the realm of realism, increasing the contrast and darkening the color palette. I personally think these designs are the less interesting of the art that we have seen already. I'm not saying they are bad, however, it has lost its energy. Just to elaborate, I'll give an example. Which of these Makotos look more capable to win? Anyway, the overall designs of the characters always adhere to the guidelines and thus convincing enough to be a great fighter. These are some of the Capcom promotional arts. They include all type of characters from their IPs. Personally, I appreciate that some of the artists did include the Breath of Fire series. Of course, it is always fun to see that the main bulk of franchises like Mega Man, Resident Evil and Strider are added to the mix as well. One thing though, it is true that almost all their artists favor Chun-Li. She's well represented in most group pictures as expected, and therefore I think it's cool that some artists do manage to leave her out. I'm fancy light novel author GP first. Currently recalling the memory of the time I joined the Street Fighter Third Strike tournament. For the first round I chose Ken, and my opponent Akuma opened with a Hadouken that I skillfully parried. That second I glanced at the buddy of mine and one thing went through my mind.
I got this, bro.
Needless to say, I got my ass handed over to me. And be sure to check out my books on my author page and subscribe to my channel for regular in-depth styles of manga artists of our favorite video games.